My name is Derek Liang. I'm the founder of both Lighthouse Legacy Planners, which is essentially a professional estate planning, and also the founder of Heritance Digital Private Limited. Heritance is your best vaccine against affluenza or sudden wealth syndrome. Today we live in a COVID era, right, where we are all talking about it's a flu-like kind of affluenza or pandemic. But you know that before COVID, and I believe it was the same, and today and tomorrow, many of our young beneficiaries are going to be suffer from this condition called affluenza, too rich when they receive their inheritance too soon, too much, and too unprepared. So how do we vaccine against? Unfortunately, there's no real vaccine. And today we are coming out with one called Heritance Digital. So essentially, we're a digital platform that helps consumers plan their inheritance, or rather their heritance, which is actually an old English word for inheritance. There's wealth and heritage, which is, it connotes all the traditions, family values, memories, stories, etc. So as the founder and product owner, my number one role is really to build an app from, very abstract concept of what is inheritance, estate planning, something very elusive. How do we build something for the masses so that we can so that everybody can leave a legacy? In fact, this is very biblical because Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children," and that's what we want to help people to do.
Yeah, I am Persis. I'm actually a qualified lawyer, and I recently left a practice to found Heritance Digital along with Derek and Clifford. So I'm in charge of the marketing and operations of the company, and we actually have many plans in the works to bring this message of passing down values and valuables to the next generation by partnering with strategic partners. And you can look forward to see the many plans that we'll be rolling out in the months to come.
I started becoming a estate planner for about 11 years, I think since 2010. And in my journey, I talked to a lot of clients from high net worth individual and all the way to mass affluent, right? And also sometimes even wealthier. And these are some of the talks you see on the screen. We are actually in the business of preparing them to do wealth succession in a very sustainable way. And this is just an example of what I just mentioned about affluenza, how our young beneficiaries should be guarded against. I mean, I'm a young father of 4, and although I'm not wealthy, but I think there are still assets that can pass down. And I realized that many of my children, I don't think they are really ready for it. So instead of preparing money for people, which is what most people do out there, I think we should focus really on how do we prepare people for money, which is hardly talked about in the industry. So when people don't plan properly, there's a couple of issues, right? I mean, first of all, many estate plans are going to fail because it's going to result in high legal costs. It's going to result in family members' confusion when somebody pass on. And the most, the most dread things is that beneficiaries are going to fight over inheritance, the conflicts. So I think this is something that wasn't being addressed properly by many of the professionals. And I think we have a part to play, that our planning approach cannot be just asset focused, but it should be value focused. And we should start to learn how to talk to our clients, how to discuss topics like what's your value system, what are the 3 values that you hope to pass down, and connecting your values to your valuables. But unfortunately, it's very hard. It's very hard to speak face to face with our client and talk about all these very personal, very sensitive questions. And we think that today, just like telemedicine, there's a telemedicine or mental wellness app. There's actually a space for digitalization in all these that can help us do our job better.
So I think these days, many people talk about fighting poverty, but there is actually an insidious poverty, which is the poverty of values. And that is a problem that is growing with every generation. So I am also motivated and sold to the vision of Heritance, because in my years of practice as a lawyer, I have witnessed and assisted many clients and I've seen how ugly things can get when there is no proper value system within the family. So siblings fighting against each other. After the parents have passed away, there is still the siblings still go to court over the assets. So there is no transfer of values in a family. But in Proverbs 20, it also says that an inheritance gained hastily in the beginning will not be blessed in the end. So it is our hope that with Heritance, we can provide that constructive tool to build and unite families from one generation to the next. I think it's only been a few months since we started Heritance, and this is my first venture into the startup or the business mode. But I am fortunate to be in a team of experienced founders. So I would say that although I am fresh and the learning curve is steep, but I am fully supported by the team. Some challenges I think would be finding like-minded partners or individuals to build the dream together. However, I believe that as long as the dream remains, there will always be people who are willing to run for it. So I am excited to see the many things that will unfold as we continue in this venture.
For myself, this is actually my second so-called fintech startup. My first was in 2014, 2015 when we started a financial planning software. So in both cases, I find that, like Persis mentioned, finding the right founders, co-founders is the toughest. And it's not uncommon that, sometimes the initial co-founders, they leave or they become very less involved within a very short span of time after the startup. And sometimes it can be very discouraging or disappointed. Yeah, so finding the correct co-founder is actually the first most daunting task, I realized. The next biggest difficulty is really trying to use you build a product thinking that you change the world or you change certain thing, but it's really the hardest is really to change user behavior, because men are creatures of habit. So as a founder, especially as a product owner, it takes a lot of humility and, swallowing your pride to overcome the what you call a founder's bias, because we are all biased about our baby, the things that we create. So it requires a lot of, painstakingly going to a market, check and do some reality check, fact check, listening to their feedbacks and giving us the feedback, how we should change our product, right? So it's really about the striking a balance, the right balance between shipping behaviors. And then if you don't do that, then you risk very low adoption of your product. So firstly, really working as a team. I will believe if I'm alone doing this startup, I would have given up many times because it's so tough, right? But it's really knowing that you have a team to support you, and there's a dream that's not just your own dream, but it's a group dream that we can forge ahead. And sometimes you also don't want to disappoint your partners, and that's why I think that keeps me going. I think the other part is really knowing that if God has sown this vision in you, and God never give an easy tasking, right? So if you have sown this vision in you, it's really a principle of stewardship, that how I can steward my gift, and gifting to realize this vision and fulfill our fullest potential. I think the thing that always that we are most fearful of sometimes is not living to our fullest potential. So I think challenges are definitely there. We just have to focus on the long term, on the God-given vision, and then we just put on.
I think we have very big dreams. I mean, we definitely want the concept of inheritance and wealth planning and legacy planning, not only to be for the wealthy, but for anyone. Everyone has something to leave behind. So I think even in the next 5 years, it would be great to see this impact, not only in Singapore, but also in the region.
We are trying to prepare people, if you allow me to share the slides, we are trying to prepare people not just to pass down inheritance in their wealth, that means wealth inheritance, but also the other two columns that you can see in the slides, that is family inheritance and memory inheritance. I think this requires a lot of mindset shift, a lot of paradigm shift, and that's why our tagline is like beyond inheritance, right? Because we want to tell people that there's a lot more to pass down other than money, but also your value systems, your family network. So one of the things that we are working so hard, it's because we want to strengthen the family fabric through sound inheritance. And I think recently you see the Singapore just published their 2020 population census, and it shows how divorce rates are climbing. It shows how families are staying apart from each other now. We also, outside of the survey, of course, we all know that siblings rivalry are very common since Cain and Abel time, and it's still very real today, and people fighting over their parents' inheritance. So with all these things, right, it's not just a Singapore problem, it's definitely a global phenomena, and we have our part to play. So the more people we reach out to, the further we reach out to, the more language we translate to, it's all very relevant because it's all about family first, and then subsequently about the wealth. So it's a perennial problems that we are trying to solve.
Okay, I think for me, because it's only been a few months, right? But I think a lot of things have happened already, and we are moving quite fast paced. So I think one of my most memorable experiences would be the investor tea that we held at DM360 itself. So I think it was my first time organizing such an event, and the turnout was better than we expected. I think the experience gave me a greater awareness of the expectations towards startups, as well as how investors see startups, what they look out for.
Heritance Digital is a startup that I have actually received 3 confirmations in a week from the Lord. Should I really do this? Because everybody is so busy already, should I really do this? And I received 3 confirmations in various forms. And then the next thing is, because we are trying to raise funds before we build the product. Typically a startup would have built a prototype or MVP, and then they go out to sell, and then they raise fund. But this time we had affirmation from many of our advisors that we can raise funds first to build a prototype MVP. And we managed to raise 300,000 USD for the company. And some of these founders are actually not like supporters, family friends. They are actually like VC level. They are very experienced seed level kind of investors. So to me, these are really the confirmation from the Lord that the favor from all these people. Okay, for me, I was introduced to DM360 by my business mentor, Mr. Gordon Hu. He invited me, and then he said it's a digital missions. And I thought it's really very apt to what I do, because I always see our work, legacy planning, as a form of missions. So digital missions is really a no-brainer for me. The younger Christian startups, pitch about their business and making waves locally, but most importantly abroad, right? So 18 months later, I told Shuchen very excitedly that I would like to start digital missions. We don't join because there's something to take, right? We join because there's something to give. And I think I'm not so young. And when I see many of the younger co-workers in the Lord's Harvest field, right? In DM360, like I mentioned earlier, I say that, wow, there's so much that, first of all, I can learn from them. The second thing is maybe we can collaborate. The third is really to as God leads us, we can be an inspirational. We can help to encourage each other.
I think for myself, I think it is very inspiring to see many young budding startups. So I think it is a great community that we can learn from each other, support each other, and even pray for each other. Yeah.
What inspired me of DM partners, many of them, they are focusing on giving. And also because it's a Christian-based organization, there's a lot of really missions. So I think number one is to acknowledge that God is our real CEO in heaven. The second one, I think, is from my personal experience, to seek out good talent and strong executor. It's about really looking at their heart to make a best decision, and we'll be blessed. So Heritance, we are so blessed to have people, so talented folks.
I think it wasn't an easy decision. It was something that I had to pray about, seek God for his direction, and also get the blessings of my husband and my family. Yeah, but I think for me personally, it was because I was already searching for my calling or my passion, even while I was a lawyer. And I could not find it after a few years in practice. So when this opportunity came along and Derek and Clifford approached me, I think it really struck a chord in me, and I decided to seek God and pray about it, and I felt a peace to take the leap of faith. Yeah, my whole direction and motivation is really in pursuit of God's call and purpose on my life. Yeah.